Hey gang, I'm back. We're talking about traditional media buying part two. So this is going to focus, this is a short lecture, and this is going to focus, give you a chance to recover from the last lecture, which is quite long. But this is going to talk about media schedules with a little more detail. So as marketers, you should be able to read and ideally create a media schedule and understand some of the different scheduling options for media vehicles on that schedule. Now we're putting together a schedule. There's a lot of factors to consider. There's the market that you're in, the media that you want to use, what type of methodology are you going to use to evaluate that media choice? Are you looking for awareness or are you looking for actual sales? How much money do you have? And what type of advertising material do you have to use? You know, the mechanics of the actual message units that you're placing. So let's talk about the media schedule piece. Media buying has gotten much more complicated. There's a lot of competing choices. They never take another media vehicle away. They just add another one on top of it. So it's getting more and more expensive. It's very complex to evaluate all these different media choices. Audiences are getting more and more fragmented. I watch this kind of media. This person over here watches this kind of media. So we're becoming more polarized as a nation in the media that we consume, which is making it more difficult for advertisers to try to reach everybody. And that combined with more media options has made the media buying process quite complex. This slide gives you a visual of some of the different, more common ways of scheduling media: continuous, flighting, and pulsing. So continuous just means you run your ads all the way along for a straight block of time, and it's the same each week, if you will. So, you know, here we see you're running an ad at 100 gross rating points per week for 12 weeks straight. You might do this when you're building up for an event you want people to be aware of, or if you're moving into a new market. You might want to run a continuous campaign, or you've launched a new product and you want to get sales in, especially if you have franchise or retailer locations that are counting on that advertising to drive traffic to their locations. A continuous schedule would be warranted. But it's expensive to continue to run each week, and you do burn out your audience. So we call that wear out. And I'll give you a quick example. When I worked at Jack in the Box, I mentioned that El Centro was part of my territory, and El Centro had the highest sales in the out of a city in all of the Jack in the Box chain. And if you've ever been through El Centro, it's not a thriving metropolis. It's a very small little town. It gets very hot. It's not heavily populated. It's primarily Hispanic, and it's inexpensive to advertise in that market. It's incredibly inexpensive because it's a small market. And yet we had all these sales coming out of that market because the population there loved the Jack in the Box food, and there wasn't a lot of competing choices at the time. And so we had a marketing budget that we just couldn't spend all of it. And so we ran a ton of TV and everything else we could get our hands on in that market, and we burned out the audience. They got worn out of seeing our ads and would actually call in and complain and say, can we please stop running Jack in the Box commercials in our market? So what we did was we ended up taking some of that money and putting it into another market. So you can't always, you have to kind of, you know, figure out how you're going to run your schedules to make it work. So another way of running media is a flighting schedule. A flighting schedule is where you're heavy for a week and you're off for a week, and you kind of give your customers a chance to rest from seeing your ads, and then you come back again for a week. So that's a flighting on, off, on, off. That's a flighting schedule. And then the third option is a pulsing schedule where you come in with a lot of ads one week, and then the next week you're still running ads, but you're much softer, less gross rating points, and you come back strong, and you come back. So that's pulsing. Flighting is on and all the way off, whereas pulsing is on and then a reduced wattage in the second week. So the flighting and pulsing methods can make your media dollars go farther because you're trying to extend. So if you're not trying to just push sales for a very immediate time frame, but build awareness over a longer period, you'd want to use a flighting or a pulsing schedule. In the next couple of slides, just give you some sample media schedules. So I gave you some of those in the previous lecture, but you can see how it lays out visually what you're doing amongst all the choices. And this can get complex. When I worked at Jack in the Box, we had multiple markets. We were in about half of the US, and all of these cities with different products that we were promoting and different media vehicles, and we would sit in our media planning meetings all day long and go by market and by media vehicles and look at what we were doing for each individual market. And we had a full-time media buyer, not somebody that we hired from outside of the company, that somebody that worked directly for the company. Here's another media schedule. Now, when you go and pursue your upper division stuff, if you do pursue a marketing major, you'll probably have to put together a marketing campaign. And part of your marketing campaign would be to put together a proposed media schedule for the product or service that you're going to market. And this is what they look like. So short lecture here, and this is a top line on your discussion and assignment for this week. You can also, the lecture slides are a little bit redundant from some of the stuff that's just in the straight videos of me talking without any lecture slides. So whichever format you prefer to gather this information. And then for this week's content, you also have a fair number of handouts. So you'll need to get those documents, and you're going to do some work through those handout pieces, and that'll help you with the assignments. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.